You know, he did just that.
Oh.
Yeah, the other way. The wrong way. All right, we'll call the Yamhill Water Advisory Committee meeting to order. Did a roll call.
No,
Well, Walker here.
Phillips here. Over here.
Johnson here, and the dean is not present. Moving on, any public comment?
Well, I got one, I'm just wondering what happened to these water districts, and I'll give you an example. South Yamhill, the contract was just signed in 2001, they've got one contract, but 20 users. Is that 20 users all under the same contract?
Yes.
That was my question.
Who are you,
I'm sorry.
Who are you?
Oh, Doug Edwards, I'm signed in, 580 North Maple Street. That's right.
Yeah, they're all one contract.
Okay, what about Lazy River, who has 0 contract and has 6 actual users?
I'm not familiar with the contracts to be honest with you. Not enough.
I mean,
That's something that's supposed to be upgraded every year.
go ahead and then.
Oh, it hasn't been, that's the problem we're having here now, so, I know you guys are getting it squared away, but in the event it ever happens again, I don't wanna come here and say, well, I told you so, you know?
Yeah. Lazy River's only got 6 connections. I think they're small. I think that's Janice County District. They're little thing, and there's not much there. So
Well, it's-
I thought she had a contract.
Yeah,
They're using 9,259 gallons per user. That's more than I use in town. I'm capped at 4,000 without going into the higher range.
the high rent district.
That's all, I'm trying to get some answers to some of this stuff as usual.
All right, thanks, Doug. Jason, the update on the log jam, rock jam, whatever we're calling it.
So the rock check dam. There again, we're just waiting for design from ODFW. Like I stated, I think it was during the budget committee, the money's been granted. We haven't received it, but it will be granted to the project. Be directed at the city. No, I think we're gonna have that project done next work window as far as we're in street work.
This
period.
summer, yeah.
July, not July and September.
It is what it is. It's a pretty simple, straightforward project. It's just more about them doing some more investigation up there to make sure the boulders are placed in the right spot. Enter any kind of fish habitat.
Good. Hopefully we can get that done. The Merkley grant, you want to update the committee?
Yeah, so now we all know the facts and findings. We were granted the money, stop me if I'm wrong with anything, Brent. It's just, we have to get grants to support that funding. If that makes any sense, which was kind of hard for me to understand, but
Yeah.
so we have $192,000 ear tag awarded money from Berkeley, but it has to be matched. And I know Ross has been working diligently with AKS, and they came up with a plan. I had to decipher that money was $75,000 towards the intertie for Hillsborough, $75,000 for the Mount Richmond connection, and $42,000 for Olive Street.
I'm still trying to understand the whole thing because the grant, I don't understand how it's earmarked when there was never a grant application submitted. So I'm still confused.
I mean, like I say, as poorly as I can put this, and sadly as I have to state it,
We don't have
there wasn't enough oversight on that awarded project or awarded grant.
So
We're awarded the money, but we're ditching. But
I didn't realize there was a matching fund. I just thought it
me
was.
neither, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was straight.
So this is for this is for study from the
Well, I know.
plant to the.
Yeah, they went back and modified it.
They were gonna modify it to include the tie line from Hillsborough.
Are we still gonna do that?
Well, that brings us into our next deal, the tie line with Hillsborough. Jason, you wanna update us on that?
Yeah, so, like I spoke to everybody kind of offline, yes, last water advisory committee meeting, we had a meeting with City of Carlton. It went really well. They brought their engineer in, Ross Schultz was president of that one, that meeting that is. A lot of information came out of that. Carlton currently got the rights from Yamhill County to pursue railroad corridor as far as the connection point, which brings us into the loop to make that project regional. Really, I mean, it's kind of a win-win project, I think, at this point. I think, you know, with them heading that direction and us possibly heading that direction, the connection points are there, crossing points.
Yeah, I guess the question I have, if we're gonna get this Merkley fund, whatever you wanna call it, so will we spend money on the Hillsborough High Line out there for, with that funds, or do we have to spend money on
Well, in regards to the corridor, yes, we would, because.
that? The corridor.
To the corridor study, you know, like Carlton's saying, like, as much information as we can give Bulkwist and the city of Hillsborough and show that we're doing our due diligence as a city, that's only gonna involve them more to do more on their end. So they're looking for funding currently too, to make their high rate study kind of happen, their feasibility study. And obviously, we're trying to do the same at 75,000. Shannon, you know, hence why that was broken up with 75,000 for the transmission line up to Mount Richmond. That you have to do your due diligence as far as equaling out and do what's best for the community, and that's why Ross and I thought it was best to use, you know, half of that portion towards doing that, just seeing if it makes more dollars and more cents, or less
Yeah.
dollars, more cents that way. So as a city, I think, you know, having someone in that, you know, admin position that's been in that networking world is pretty phenomenal. So, yeah. It's moving, and like Shannon said, we can't overstate their water, right? Like, we can't speak like it's our water at this point. Like, we just have to do our due diligence and hopefully bring enough information to the table that they start working this. Sorry, there is one more point to that. I think it would be a benefit to this community if we brought City of Hillsborough back online in another meeting. I know that they were wondering via Shannon, she kind of tossed this information away, if Yamhill was still interested in where they're at, and things of that nature. They do have our letter of intent, but it's, you know, it's just sitting in a file somewhere, so they're just like, we need to re-amp those talks, revamp them, get them going again.
So what do you, they were trying to set that up here in the next month, or
I think so.
maybe the end of May, he'll go back, there's nothing else on Zoom. In Carlton.
Yeah, I
Oh,
can
yeah,
reach out to Carlton and see, and we'll get that going for our next meeting.
if we can't do that for our next meeting, for Zoom meeting. They want to. Sounds good.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on, it's just hard to figure out how it's all gonna come together.
Yeah.
Over 100,000 foot level and trying to.
Yeah.
Bring it down. Leak detection, conservation plan.
So the water rate study, there's ties of water conservation there, so that's part of the plan, low level, but at the same time, we kind of got a two-for that deal. As far as leak detection, it's been pretty lackluster at this point. We went at it pretty hard, you know, like I stated in previous meetings. We have a detection point now up at the reservoir where we can isolate certain valves and know that the leak in between that system and that transmission line. So that was probably our biggest unknown. So we attacked and pushed that first. Other than that, we did find a pretty major leak on First Street.
Yeah.
With the new contractor putting in their line. As soon as that new line went on, I mean, we probably stopped. I think we guesstimated around 60 gallons per minute. We've been there for who knows how long, right? So
There could be a sinkhole underneath.
Yeah, honestly,
Somebody's house.
you just didn't know. I know, looking at kind of the water table downstream as far as Second Street. It stopped that quite significantly.
Which way is First Street?
First Street's right here, just coming off Juniper down.
This First
Yeah,
Street.
do that.
The new house and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm sorry that I'm late.
We'll come back and I'll do public comment
Okay.
at the end for those.
Okay. Have you been able to notice any difference in years in as far as water usage is concerned?
Yeah.
Mine was the same.
It's probably better to have Ken speak to that, but the process has been a lot smoother. As far as.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for her.
Yeah, but as far as real allowances to people's water, there hasn't been anything really significant where you're like, whoa, it's not for years.
The reconnection, can you move your equipment?
No, it's stationary, Paul. It is, but it,
So
like I
you're
said,
already looking at the technique now from the reservoir.
yeah, that transmission line, those 2 points were pretty significant though, because there's a lot of unknown up around that line.
You're talking about
Yeah.
what line is still here.
Right. When we looked at high level leak detection, that's when you're putting like ultrasonic balls in the system and things of that nature. It was pretty substantial because they never left us an entry point, so you'd have to like almost cut, put that ultrasonic ball in and then do an insert valve, and I was like, you're talking $40,000. So our approach has been just using OAW's leak detection system and kind of navigating through our maps and kind of pinpointing, the larger areas that go out.
I think the rest of the stuff on our queue list, we're kind of waiting for that final report from Tim. I know he was hoping to have it done for today, but it's not.
I didn't want to overstep myself, and anybody can stop me if I'm too far into this, but going into that 4% like we discussed in preliminary with the budget, I don't know if that's something that the council or our water advisory committee wants to kind of hold back on till we get the rate study done from Ross, or excuse me, not from Ross, but from Tim, and then really indulge in our input for budget. Or are we just gonna flow with what's kind of out there right now?
So Ross put in a 4% increase in user fees for next year's budget.
For water?
Water. Not knowing, knowing what's in the preliminary report from Tim. That's a lot bigger jump than 4%.
Yeah.
In case, do we want to recommend to council that number be higher or lower, or,
When do you have to have it?
well, the problem is, I don't think they want to approve the budget tomorrow or Thursday.
Oh,
So we wouldn't have time to put it to council.
So should we advise the council lowering the allowance? I think we have to do something. I sound pushy, but we spent a lot of money on a rate study. To sit back and just say, well, we could have just done 4%.
Yeah,
It's not do justice.
So the 4% is the council, right?
Yeah, that's the budget officers. And I guess the rest I don't like people. I think we're pretty much all in agreement that to go to the 2,000
yeah,
Mhm.
Allowance.
you're gonna have to restructure your per thousand numbers at some point, aren't you? To do that?
Yeah, because what that change.
Well, like Kathy brought up, I don't, and nobody's really done, and this is probably my job to do, but how much effect that's gonna have on the budget? People
Yeah.
that obey to that 2,000.
If you don't do some of these other increases,
Right.
it's gonna hurt your budget. So after the last meeting, we were talking about this $14.34 per unit delivery. So the cash reserves that are sitting here on this piece of paper, is that left over from last year?
that was the wrong,
Yeah.
that was the wrong number.
Okay, because I was trying to, because I know Kyle spit out that, you know, how much it's costing the city to actually do this. Well, when you use this 1434 number, yes, it is, but that is not your true cost per gallon of water, correct? That is the wish.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I just, because I felt kind of funny when he was throwing his number out, I think, wait a minute.
Well, it's just,
You didn't have $363,000 in your budget last year for your capital improvement, so it didn't cost you that much. It's probably what should be happening, or somewhere in that line, but
did Tim say that it was actual cost to deliver?
Well,
Was
yes.
1434,
Because our actual cost per gallon was,
a penny and a half,
yeah, thank you.
which is the same as McMinnville and Hillsborough, and
yeah.
so that 1434 is probably about right.
I don't see how that's, you can say 1434 for the past when you're adding, you know, what is it, a third to your budget almost. To add some capital improvements, which need to be done. But, so I could find sometimes I'm kind of confused by the numbers that are given.
If I'm wrong, so when we talked, Tim was gonna review going to 2,000 gallon allowance. At the 62, that would be 62. And then anything over that would be $8.93.
Well, that's a good question. I never had one to look at some.
And it's all based on,
Oh, he's got a tier 1,
yeah,
from
that was
4,000 to 8 is 775,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, overall, it would. If I read this right, it would change your water bill to about $84.50 a month.
And what is it now?
66.
For 4,000 gallons.
Sure, 4,000.
It would be $85.50 for 2,000 gallons.
They just do it in the middle at 3,000. I thought that was kind of what you suggested. at the
Yeah.
council meeting.
We've kind of, and we're waiting for Tim to bring back some more information. There was a lot of questions, a lot of factors, so.
There.
Pardon me, I can talk now?
No, he asked me.
Oh, sorry.
So, I think we need to wait for Tim to come back with that deal. After. I think 2,000 gallon allotment.
Man, the only one that scares me is the revenue lost, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's, when those numbers are thrown at me. It's pretty astronomical, right? I don't wanna, but.
So,
But are you gonna lose any revenue, because you're,
I mean, we're already losing.
we're already losing major.
If we use one example, please, I mean, that's 75,000 in revenue a year.
Mhm.
yeah,
You know, it's,
so if the budget number gets set,
They can always go in and do a supplemental budget and change that.
I mean, if we go with some of Tim's rate suggestions that could be coming or whatever. So how if they set their rate and say they're gonna raise it 4%,
right,
then what happens with when the spring study comes back?
And it's,
That's.
12%.
It's gonna muddy the water really bad.
And we don't,
So I think that adding 4% to the budget, because I'm not a city person, but to right now will be ahead of the game. I mean, you're gonna do some kind of an adjustment to your rate regardless, correct? 4% isn't gonna cut it.
no,
So I think that adding it now is just gonna get people all, I mean, because then you're gonna turn around, they're gonna,
oh, just kidding, there's another,
yeah, here, we're gonna do this now.
right.
And because it's gonna, I mean,
Ugh.
it's like just talking to Tim Piper, it's gonna be kind of astronomical for the district people. I mean, because,
And what's the pulse out there? Kathy, I mean,
I don't know. I haven't talked to enough people to ask what. I haven't, I didn't get any feedback from any of the people up here that day, and I gave them some work, for a number of stuff, but none of them came back with anything, but the whole thing is that they're in the same boat everybody in town is. You can't go drill a well that time. I mean, it's not there, so we have an option to maybe make some adjustments to what we're using, but not everybody has that. So,
you're looking, almost 27% increase.
at what the rate. Numbers.
I thought it was 17, but that was, but maybe,
It was
maybe something got convoluted there because.
17's have been the 2 months, I remember right, 27, that ballpark. Kind of.
I guess-
Why doesn't my rates, when I factor it into my rates, why does it come out so hot? I mean, I didn't come up with anything. I think it got down to 50. What's that? Is 90, whatever number. So I can't, I mean, I was 99% on the first one. I'm thinking, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it's, if the number for the district people, I'm thinking is going to change some of their thought process on what they're doing with their water. But most people aren't gonna have an option. I'm thinking of a couple of people on our line that there's, unless they wanna try to drill a well, but in all reality, somebody's drilling a well, you can only pay for it for a year or two. If you got water. But there's been a lot of people that drill wells with their well water or zero.
Depending on what the state does, I've heard rumors that the state is gonna try and put meters on wells.
I heard that too.
Best way to go on.
Water rates.
But the state wants to start collecting revenue off those wells.
Oh my God.
South of there, they're doing that in certain areas.
I've heard that.
Well, I don't, I guess that's the big question on the table, but what do we need to do as a committee here to either prolong that budget number or just take that 4%, get this rate study, and we look at it in 24.
I mean, we could always do the 27%, be high. And not saying the city has to go to that number. You just have to know in your water fund that you've got an over projected dollar amount.
I don't think 4%.
No.
No,
Not for the CIP, let's say capital improvement.
It's not gonna build any project.
No,
not gonna. You're
They
just
kind of
going
meet in the
back.
middle there between 4 and 27. I mean,
No, I mean, that's-
more doable.
They're looking at their per unit delivery is $14.34 per thousand. So when you start factoring some of that into there, it's,
Mhm.
but if they're gonna be able to do any improvements in town, they're gonna have to come up with funds.
Again, that picture of maybe in a half a gallon.
Also, it is, they ain't happy gallons, $100,000.
Yeah. And that's in line with most everybody around the numbers I've looked at. That's the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I was gonna, someone asked me what Carlton's was, and I know I've heard the numbers before, but I can't remember.
They're higher than us.
I know that the people out, that live out on the Am Hill Road, I think they're 175.
Yes, I've heard somewhere like close to two.
Which is way more than what our guys are paying. I mean, so you look at that number and you're thinking, well, you know,
Yeah,
Do we want to recommend to council to budget that we're looking at a 2,000 gallon allotment allowance with a possible upwards of 27% increase pending the final report from,
see, my thoughts are, if we drop to the 2,000 allowance, then in that tier structure, that's where you build that 27%. Because you can, I feel like then you're preaching water conservation, and then there's an incentive.
so I think that messing with the allowance without doing the whole thing is probably not.
Yeah,
I-
I'm with Kat, see, I'm exactly,
Yeah.
because I don't wanna affect that budget number next year.
Yeah, and so then if you're gonna think that we're gonna wait another, put this on the table another year from now, you know, maybe you need to go more than 4%, so.
well, Tim was gonna review that tiers to the 2,000 to 4,000, I believe. Right now he's 4 to 8, 8 to 12, and 12 on the tiers.
Because I think they're asking a lot of no. 4% is, they want to. Not lose it.
Well, I mean.
Just to be reasonable, so we're in May, end of May, there's no way we're gonna get anything finalized for your July 1 increase. I mean, in all reality, I mean, it's gonna be a rush program instead of spending some time figuring it out. But, yeah, I
Well,
think,
I'll say this, Brian, and you can speak to this too a little. If we knocked off the 4% for wastewater and just put it at an 8% overall for water and did nothing to wastewater this year.
We're going backwards in wastewater.
But I just see that fund is so well built. Wastewater fund for some odd crazy reasons, pretty built up. Granted, that's coming down the pipeline too,
But
but
you're not spending it. Because, I mean, wastewater thing with the, I mean.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know, we're kind of at a point here, crossroads where it's, like Kathy's saying, it's a little late in the game to get this through budget. But that 4% isn't gonna do enough for capital improvement projects.
I'd much rather be, if I was doing the budget on my side, I'd much rather project higher and not spend as much, you know, just knowing that, you know, if we don't go to that level, we're not gonna have this money on the other side to spend. That way it saves you from doing a supplemental. I didn't like supplementals just because it costs so much.
Mm.
You got to publish it in the paper. Last time I did one, it was $1,000 just to publish it for a supplemental budget. So I hate spending money on unneeded. I'd much rather just shoot high. And then knowing that you're not gonna have that much money to spend. In the budget.
Um,
Can I ask a question? So if you raise it up to the 85.50 this year, 27%, whatever it is, are you planning on regular increases then yearly? And if so, how much?
yeah,
That would be good.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah, please.
Patty,
Thank
I'm
you.
Karen.
There would be increases that it would go by the CIP, so whatever the cost of
or CPI.
their CPI. Consumer price index,
Is that gonna be enough though? Cause what's that percentage rate? That's relatively low, isn't it?
it all depends on different things, it changes year by year, so that's how we got the
9.1.
9.1.
Oh, that's right.
It came off of the consumer price index.
That's right.
it was a 12 point.
So in the future, it would go up, the consumer price index would adjust.
But we're trying to get enough money sitting here so that these guys can do some capital improvements every year.
No, and I understand that.
And so that, making that jump is gonna be
The first
Second
jump is
reference.
gonna be
That and the
the first jump is gonna be the
killer.
And that's why I think that, well, if we come somewhere in between that number, I mean, you won't have to go up so much when we actually do it. But you're gonna have to. You need to go up something for this year, I don't even percentage wise, I have 4%.
No, that's fine.
I don't think
and
10%.
you figured the CPI was 9.1 last year,
Yeah,
figure.
it's any less this year.
it's gonna be 10 to 15.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, everybody's involved in industry of any sort.
Oh,
See,
terrible.
right? That's wrong.
So
I asked the question, Barry Wilson, 7 student. So I'm trying to understand. So you're looking at cutting our minimum water rate in half to 2,000 gallons a month and raising us $27 for the basic $2,000 a month, right? I mean, 2,000 gallons a month. That's how
Not
I-
saying that, it's just thought, right? So
Okay.
we're just kind of spitballing the numbers that Tim guys from the Oregon Association of Water Dealers. So there's,
It gets, his numbers that he throws out sometimes are a little mind boggling, so.
When I was here at the council meeting, when he was talking, it sounded like, at first I thought it was about 25%. And then it came back to being like 10% or 9.4, and I was trying to read and understand what was happening.
yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of tiers.
So here is what he recommended for a 2,000 gallon allowance, 78.39 a month. Which would be,
I like that thought pattern move, because you update it, then there's water conservation involved in it. And then the tier structure kicks in, those multipliers kick in if you're overusing.
I'm gonna be over. What's that gonna do, what kind of, in the summer especially? So what, for each 1,000, or are we gonna go like every 1,000, it's gonna be this much?
He's got his numbers right now, well, it's from 4 to 8, but if you go down to 2, it's gonna be from 2 to something, and then you've got a 8, 12, and a 12.
Okay, so it's like a 4,000 or 2,000 increments or something, okay.
Right.
He's got 4, yeah, but he's got
And- Is this gonna be the city of Yamhill?
everybody.
Everyone.
I got here through August of 2021, Lilac Hill has 11 users and they use 42,000 gallons.
Yeah, Milk County mushrooms, Milk County mushrooms on that line.
So
Doesn't matter then, if I'm gonna have to pay more for less, I'm not gonna pay more.
This would be, yeah, this would be an
It
overall.
seems like we have, the city residents are kind of getting a little bit shorted.
no, that,
The districts are gonna pay 1.5, I mean, 50%.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The districts have to pay more for their water.
Yeah, we pay more per 1,000 gallons.
So we get one district that would use people.
I understand that, but you're telling me it's been 4,000 gallons for a long, long time.
Mhm.
You wanna cut it down to 2, charge me more, and that the districts are still nowhere near 2,000 gallons. So if what you're saying is so, how much is it per user using 42,000 gallons a month? Is that gonna be scaled too?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
So
so,
I'm gonna have
He's
to
always talking about cutting.
take a second on that line because I talked to the Yamhill County mushroom people a little bit, so they were hauling water from down here to there. And someone back when they put the line in, out there, suggested that they put a line out there instead of them hauling water all the time. So that line was put in for Yamhill County mushroom, and there are some houses off in it, obviously.
Okay.
But when we had the water defunct going on, they bought a truck and hauled water. I mean, and that's, they've already bought another one. in case it happens again, so that they are more prepared.
It was their business, they can drill a well from here to China and write it off on their taxes,
There's
come on.
you're not gonna drill a well and get anything from it. You can
Well,
salt
that's what
water.
you say, are you a water expert?
You know how many wells have been drilled on Laughlin Road that have zero water?
No, I don't know.
Probably
No idea.
10 in the last 5 years that I know.
I do know it's against the law for me to drill a well on my property, I live in city limits.
So
Yeah,
I know that, I mean, out in our direction where we've had numerous people that winery across the street, tried 3 more wells, 1 salt water and 1 basic.
Well, that, and what you say is fine, I'm not here
Yeah,
to,
so I'm just
appreciate you
saying,
guys doing what you do, but it's just gotta be even across the board.
and
It's
that's
gotta
what,
be even.
that's what we're working on, so.
yeah,
Let's get back on track.
yeah.
So do we want to recommend a change to the budget committee for the 23-24 budget? Instead of a 4% increase, do we want that to raise,
To the 78, 90. Is that right?
now 78.39 was, and that was for 2,000 allowance. Proposed rate. That'd be $11.77 increase.
I do, and if you're looking at me, that's. what I'm
What did you say for a percentage?
I haven't run the percentage yet, so whatever,
'Cause it needs,
$11.78.
about 18%. 18 to,
Bottom line is, the infrastructure is old, we have to rehab.
have to get something.
And every other community is doing the same thing, like I
Yeah,
said, I've set. And I know you guys have heard this before, but this is just for the general public, I have sat in these meetings with city managers. That grimace over the fact that they have to increase the rates on their ratepayers just to pay for infrastructure. Because there's no way that you can even, if you even get a grant, there's not even much matching funds in there to make that grant process or make that project formally. So we have to lean on the ratepayer to pay for their infrastructure. There's just no,
I don't have.
and I apologize for the.
You know, I do adult, I mean, I do,
Nobody
because
wants
it-
to pay it, but
yeah,
we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
if we're gonna have a water
yeah.
system in the city, something's gonna have to change, I mean, they're gonna have to get some more money.
Well, one of these meetings, I proposed the $10 fee, like we're paying the police. How did that work out? Because it was 9.1%, I think you guys figured it out there. That help?
Oh, yeah, it moved the dial quite a bit. I mean, I look at 2 projects that we were able to do or are doing, and that was the meters being one, all new meters in the system. And number 2, we're getting a whole new line on Third Street.
Well, if it helped, bump
I
it
mean,
up,
that's kind of what we're doing here is,
bump it up to 30.
so, but what if we,
No.
what if
Why?
what if we recommended budget council 2,000 allotment, 20% increase? That will, I mean, we're about 17, 18, we go 20% again, I'd like to be a little higher than lower. Just so we don't have to do, it's a, hate seeing supplemental budget, so it's a waste of money. If you can,
and
it
then
all
just,
help it.
and then just tag it or earmark it to a capital improvement project.
Yeah, and if you don't raise it that much, you just know that, you know, we only raised 18%, okay. 2% of that income is not available.
It's actually gonna be 120%, because you're giving us half as much water. I mean, it's more, so. When you look at it like.
It's $11 and, yeah, so you're looking at $22.
No, you're
But
looking
why
at
do
half.
you come up with, why do you come up with 2? I'd like it to go to 6,000. Some of us have yards, we like the water, I like to wash my car once in a while.
Well,
I'm stuck paying for all that, because
well,
you
and
can't go
kind
over
of,
that magical number.
and kind of where we came up with 2,000, we've heard from a lot of community that there's older folks that are limited and they don't use 4,000 gallons of water. why are we paying for 4,000 if we're not using it? It's kind of, this would be more like your power bill. I think power bill, PG minimums, your base rate's 1,000 kilowatts. Anything over that, you pay extra for. It's the hybrid district.
So what if you use less than that? Do you pay less?
No.
No, you pay
No,
you pay the minimum. And so that's why we was kind of. Mine is kind of trying to respect both ends of this.
So you're raising the rates and those people that are not using the water.
I mean,
getting a
there,
little, you know, not as big a increase as the people that are using.
yeah, so those that are only using 1,500 gallons a month, yeah, their bill's gonna go up $12. But they're not going to be paying for the 2,000 they're not using, whereas myself and my wife Waters, we're over the 4,000. So I'm gonna pay
More money.
more money.
You're gonna pay how much more money? You're already paying $11 more for the 2,000.
So, and that's what we're waiting for Tim to come back with us on,
Well, I don't know, Tim.
He's doing the rate study.
doing the rate study. It's probably gonna be somewhere between, just guessing,
That's ballpark on
between $8 and $12
Another rate.
per thousand.
Oh, for town.
Cause I'm kind of in the dark. It's been a long time since y'all seen me face here. Y'all agreed one on meet 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's why you know, I was the only one here. These guys were late.
Well, I thought it was-
You gotta be able to meet around the community's needs. And usually in the evening's fine.
So do we,
I don't know where it comes-
let's get back. Do we wanna do 2,000, 20%? Stop station. I mean, that's what Tim is bringing his numbers back on, is a 2,000.
I thought it was gonna be.
You know, he's doing two.
I think that we should just do the 20% increase and not.
Do the allowance. That's almost
It-
what I think.
Just do it,
Just
recommend it 20%.
Cause you already,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, you already handcuffed them at 20%, let's not drop their allowance.
Well, until we get that rate study back.
And then we'll have a year to figure out what to do with the rate study. Huh?
So I'm gonna make a.
It's another water resource.
Make a motion to recommend to the council and budget committee a 20% increase on water rate for the 23-24 budget. You made the motion, Jason?
Yes.
Jason made the motion. All right, I second it. Hi.
That's great. That's- For the 23. Not the allowance.
Yeah.
The allowance.
Oh.
The allowance won't really change anything for the budget.
No.
Yeah, when we get the rate study, we can. We got a motion second. All in favor?
I.
Jen's night. Okay. I will submit that to Ross tonight. And to council, I'll send that to all council and to Ross tonight that we're recommending a 20% instead of 4% on the water. Not much more. Okay, and we're still waiting for, hopefully by next month, we'll have the report from Tim with the updated stuff. Is there anything else?
I think that was the heavy hitting.
Okay. Anything else, Kathy?
Can't think of anything at the moment.
Oh. Okay, just before we close, wait,
Can I public comment?
yep,
Okay, I have a request. So, you know that fire department finds bit of controversy. So I came up with an idea and I approached the fire department chief and asked him if he would be able to be involved in all these meetings, at least come and maybe say what's happening in the fire department for this meeting, city council, county commission, and I will get a hold of the beautify and whatever. Oh, Sherry Wilson, sorry, 710 East Main. And if he was to be invited to all these meetings, then we could use that fire sign to post the meetings because it would be,
you can't,
pardon me?
you can't. Illegal. That sign is purchased on the grant,
Right.
and there's very strict requirements, what you can and cannot do with it.
Well,
It's from the federal government.
even if the fire department's involved in these meetings by bringing,
Nope, the way that grant was written, it is for strict recruitment and retention and fire department stuff. Cause when I was chief, I was hit up by the school, put stuff on there. It violates the agreement with the federal government on those funds and that grant usage.
Yeah.
Maybe,
well, I was so excited.
maybe the school would do it for us, I mean.
Maybe.
I'm sorry, but that's, when you get into some of these grants, there's very strict language in there that you have to abide by. And if you don't abide by it, they can come back and say, I want my money back.
But did it address the brightness of your grant?
No,
So, well, nix that.
sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to make the community a little more aware about what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, nobody, look here, we're the same people that come to every,
I told you when I was.
I don't care what you do, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
You can do what you wanna do, and you try what you wanna do,
Mhm.
but, I invite all the water district people to a meeting here, I got two.
Well, when they start hitting in the pocketbook, maybe
No.
they'll come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
they're gonna do is like money. So, you know, you just can't, it's like any organization that you get in. There's so many people that will come and participate in the meeting process. So they might come and do the event you're putting on, but Yum Community Club, same thing. Same people, every year, sitting there at the table, you just put some new faces this year, I say, take that. You just don't get anything, I mean, they just don't, people don't come.
Well, maybe because they're disappointed. I don't want to
I don't know.
write a dead horse, but it's almost 2 years since our water emergency. You ain't reviewed one contract. Come on, let's get on the ball. Pick one egg and let's go with it.
The problem is the contracts are gonna be the city, the council doing. We can give recommendations.
You can, because every contract is void. It's not been updated. January 1.
It's not void, they're still in
They're still
effect,
there.
they're still in effect.
Yeah,
Just
But
like
then what is the language that they have to be updated?
there is. I'd have to go back and look through them, but I don't think there's.
It's never been done.
Okay, since 1986.
Yeah, there is language in it, like, because that's what I'm here to talk about.
So Patty,
I'll let you talk.
Okay, so Patty Perrin, 215 North Maple Street. So just a first quick question, there was a work session on the 19th, but it wasn't made known to the public.
it was just for us to meet with Tim Tice to address the report.
Oh, okay, okay,
It's hard to.
it's a lot of information,
yeah.
trying to figure out what it's.
It was, but is it open to the public?
It wasn't, it was just it was
wasn't.
just for trying to get some answers out of Tim and understand.
Okay, so I went through all the contracts and I did this little letter. And all this information is included in all the contracts. And part of my concern with them is a couple things. One is that they're supposed to be updated yearly. Each contract states that. Each contract also, there's indication of the amount of users on it. And, oh, sorry. And And I indicated on here the actual user or the contract number of users and the actual users. And my major issue was South Young Hill. One user is on the contract, and that was updated in 2000, that's when it was effective, and it was actually signed in 2001. There are 20 people, 20 meters.
There's something wrong with that one, because South Young Hill always got that many people on.
No, not on the contract. The contract states one user. That's it.
That's why they need to be updated.
And
Well, I'm
Lacey,
sure when they ran the lines throughout the road, that they're only looking at just one user.
okay, but this is the problem, because there's actually 100, supposed to be 137 users within the confines of the 9 contracts, because Briar Lane, for whatever reason, is not, that's not a contract for the city, but yet they have 6 users on there. So the city shows 169 total users, which is what is actually out there. But the contracts say 137. So that's 32 more users than these contracts even indicate. And then the amount of water that these users, and I've indicated that on here, this is the average per user per month. Which, I mean, Lilac Hill, almost 43,000 gallons a
We
month.
already talked about that.
Okay, but that's it. And another concern that I have with Lilac Hill is, and none of this information is current, because the information that I got was from 2021, that was when we were having the water issue. So while I was looking through the contracts, I was online looking at the different areas in the contracts, and I came across a sale of a home on Lilac Hill. And I printed it because I was angry with what I was reading, because it said plenty of outbuilding space. It has a shop, a massive 40 by 60 cattle barn with awning. And then it says Pleasant View community water, well for secondary water. And then it says bring your cattle, plant vines or trees. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to use the word that I was thinking, but I said, are you kidding me?
They were never done, they get that.
Yeah, but the point of that whole thing is that they're advertising this as community water when, and I know you're in a district, Kathy, I know that. But if you look at your users, the amount of your users compared to these other ones, yeah, you're using a hell of a lot of water a month, but the point is that Lilac Hill has 11 users. They're using almost double what you're using. And when they are listing property for sale, this is how they're doing it. And the contracts are for domestic use only. Every single one of them, with the exception of BJD or BWD and WWD, whatever those are for, whatever WVSH. Those are the only 2 that state or that don't have for domestic use only on there. And I went as far as going to the state of Oregon and looking at all these different things, what's domestic use, what's for agriculture, all of that. And what I'm seeing is that every single one of the districts are using it for something other than domestic use. Every single one of them. And in every single one of the contracts, it says for domestic use only, period.
So when the lines were ran in 1960 out in our place, there wasn't a contract. and it was ran to our shop, there was no house. It was there for commercial use.
Okay, but that's irrelevant.
And in 1985, we got these contracts put in front of us, we had no choice but to sign it. No one could change what they were doing with the water, because the water was put there for them to use on their farm, to water their animals with. That's what it came out of town for,
Okay,
all of them, and Yamhill County Mushroom is on the end of the line of Kilwa, and that line was ran out there for Yamhill County Mushroom to use.
and I understand that, but that's then, this is now. There's been a whole lot of buildings since then, and the mushroom farm does a whole lot more than just mushrooms.
Yeah.
A whole lot more,
And their consumption dropped drastically when we had the drought, they all water.
but, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but your contract has never been dated.
Mine has a date on it.
No, it's got an effective date. But where everybody signed it, it's never been dated. Anyway, that's just a FYI. But so what it comes down to is the way that it was, if I'm not mistaken, the last city council meeting, you know, they want to push the urban growth boundary. The new 57 homes are gonna be going in. They wanna build however many more once they push the urban growth boundary. And I'm sorry for saying this, but either the outside districts are gonna have to be cut off at a certain amount.
So you need to ask what's gonna be your water bill at your house.
No, I know what it's gonna do, but the problem, no, I'm saying the amount of water that's used in the outside district is gonna just, it's gonna have to be cut off at a certain amount. Like, and I'm just gonna say 6,000 gallons, just not because I've even thought about it, but it's gonna have to be cut off at that point. If in the event they do any more development in this town, because once those 57 homes comes in, what's gonna happen, Jason? We are going to be on a strict water conservation. Correct,
Not because you can pay for it, but because there won't be enough water.
exactly. I mean, you know, and like I say, these here, these figures for what the average was, that was from May 20th through October 20th of 2021. So that was in the hot season for the most part. And I mean, look at these numbers. It's gonna kill us if those numbers continue after this 57 homes goes in. I mean, we're gonna be in a freaking world of.
The one thing I'll say, Patty, is numbers don't lie. I mean, I get that and I appreciate and respect the homework you did. But I think as a committee, we have to be solvers, right? Like, we can't continue to thrive on the problems that we're setting in front of us. We have to come up with solutions. And I think we all, everyone included, should just be coming up with solutions, right? We have the intertie on the table. We've invited ODFW out there. We're looking at rates that are tied into conservation that the districts would be affected by immensely.
I think it's not fair, Jason, though, that they're considered surplus. And it's like, how can you, I think you guys have to figure out how to bring you guys in, like I said before, so you're not considered surplus, because as long as you're surplus,
We have to
we
grow.
have to grow.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut your water off, but I don't think it's fair to keep adding more connections to our water system.
I understand that.
And they
Sherry,
need to
but
be
the
brought
city
in somehow.
itself is at a point where we were regulated to grow our UGB.
And that's exactly my point.
And I get where you're going with that, with them being.
Catch
surplus,
22.
But that's why we're trying to come up with solutions.
And the problem comes back from years. The city never did a 50-year future study.
Yeah.
Had this all been planned out 50 years prior, rates would have been set, things would have been in place so that
infrastructure.
you would grow, like McMinnville. Their water department has a 50-year plan into the future. That's how they've been able to grow and develop without a lot of major issues. Same way with Hillsborough and the other bigger cities. So,
But
No.
Brian, the problem is that we have to grow because of the fact that we've got that 75% of our water is considered surplus. And that's where I'm saying that it has to happen somewhere. The pipeline to Hillsborough or whatever, how freaking many years is that gonna take? That, we're all gonna be, huh?
You would be surprised how fast I can do.
Yeah, but we're talking at least 3 years.
Yeah.
At least. So in 3 years, how many more subdivisions are they gonna put in here? And how many more, I mean, half of these, not even half, there's there's four districts that are under 10,000 gallons. 4 is all the rest are 13 and above. And when I say cut off, I'm not saying shut them down completely. I'm saying that they have a limit on the amount of water that they're gonna get. Because, you know, where's the incentive for them? There is none, other than it's gonna raise their rates. And I get
I
that.
mean, honestly, the reality is the curtailment opened everyone's eyes. Because
No, it didn't open the district.
Jason,
My question is,
We
I'd like
talked
to
our
know,
district way down, I'm not sure about the rest of it.
It's complicated, because the way it pays for a lot.
that's
Well, if I'm-
irrelevant.
I'm not gonna turn it in.
Well,
You know,
the
part of it's
problem
being-
is that they're using so much water, even when we're on restrictions. They didn't get restricted until at least a month after we
I
did.
got restricted the same.
every restriction went out to all water
well,
districts the
if
same.
nobody enforces, then I guarantee you.
Oh, I did.
Well,
So,
I called some of my users and said, hey,
well, that's good then, that's what
yeah.
what do you call the district manager?
So like you said, none of the other districts.
But none of the other-
are in this.
Well, I wanna know, I'm paying $100 a month for water and sewer, is sewer included on the district?
No,
No.
no,
we don't use sewer, yeah.
So water, then break it down, say $51 for water, whatever it is, $50.
So
How
what,
much is someone outside the water district paying for 4,000 gallons of water?
Right now, 75 or so on ours.
75? So you're paying $25 more, but you're getting all this extra water, all this extra. 42,000 gallons per user is a hell of a lot of.
but they're paying for every gallon of water they get.
Well, somebody's not paying for it, because earlier you mentioned that leak that's been going on forever. There's no way to track what's produced versus what is used and what is wasted.
That's why we've got leak detection in place now. That's why they're working on, we've been able to resolve a lot of these.
We're talking 2023 now.
And
We're not 1980.
So the problem's been, we haven't upgraded, period,
yeah, but that's
In
not
the lab.
making more water.
50 years.
But it allows you to,
It allows you
with
to,
revenue.
with revenue. We
It
haven't,
allows us to become senior right users. It allows us to redesign the intake system, so we're not capturing only 20%, we can capture 40% of the Trinity Creek water.
Okay,
Things of that nature.
Well,
but there's users that are
But
ahead
that's the
of the
thing.
city.
The only thing that's gonna preach water conservation is dollars. And we have to hit them when it hurts, and that's in their pocket. We can sit here and talk about these facts until we're blue in the face. But the only thing that's gonna stop them is when they can't afford it, and then we're gonna be able to regulate.
yeah, but who's gonna pay for it?
But the problem is that
You guys.
almost every single one of those contracts are being, and it states it right on there, that unless they abide by the rules of the contract, basically, they should be shut off. And it states it right in the contracts.
But that's more of a legal question, Patty, and I respect this, but I think we need to get this thing moving forward.
Yeah.
where you have no problem wanting to cut a city resident in half. That was no problem you guys thought.
Well, we
That was
readjusted.
save money for the-
Are you gonna cut the district in half?
They'll just pay
We pay for
for,
thousands
they
of-
pay for every gallon they get.
Yeah. The
I mean,
purpose of cutting their allowance was to help some of these people that are on fixed income
income.
save some money. It
Yeah.
wasn't to do anything to do other than that. So if that's gonna cause an issue, we'll leave it at 4 and let everybody.
No, I
get-
agree with the 20, but that's for every water user, everywhere. Right?
This will affect every water
Yeah,
user.
like a 9.1%.
Yeah, it will affect everything.
Yeah,
Well, that, and see, that's
My gripe
what I
was
call
not
fair.
that, was that you guys need to have some security and.
Yeah, and-
surplus water.
the districts are going to get together and get an attorney because
So,
we can't sign those kind of contracts again.
Well, I was gonna say, when are the new contracts?
Thank you, guys.
There-
There's issues that right now. is
there-
dealing with.
and in the contract, there is no term on there that says when you will renew them.
But if
Yes, it
it's
does.
January 1,
It says.
I just read through 2 of them. The 2 I looked at, they have no termination date.
well, what's the city law say? Every year.
So,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the pipe made out of, the water plant, you know,
C900. It's a plastic blue green.
yeah,
Brian, which contract? is-
I'll have to go back through it. Right now, we're
I make a
gonna,
motion to adjourn.
we're adjourned.
Yeah, we looked at.
Thank you. No, just-
Actually, pretty long.
Austin, one day, been planning this on a job, probably all this stuff out there, and I want to say that was. Okay.
That was an idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jason?
we're doing great.
We need to- I'd like to get this person. I'm like you walk and run.
You can walk or run.
Oh, I drove down.
Oh, you did.
I was doing yard work, I almost.
Look for the shows.